She then climbed out of the wrecked car, walked away, and was literally never seen again. This case is literally insane, and I bet you've never even heard of it. Hello! Welcome to my channel. My name is Meg. It's 7 p.m., but I'm having a matcha. I'm not working tomorrow. Got my little frog on there. We even have our little frog over here. What should we call him? On this channel, we cover true crime, paranormal, mysteries, a bit of history, a bit of everything. Without further ado, let's get into the case of Patricia Meehan. Who is Patricia Meehan? Well, before she became one of Montana's most bizarre disappearance cases, Patricia lived a very normal life. Patricia was born July 25th, 1951 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She was one of several children in a close-knit Catholic family. Close friends and family described her as kind, intelligent, and independent. She studied early childhood development, and her hope was to eventually work with children. But when the 80s came around, Patricia wanted a bit of a change. So she moved from Pennsylvania to Montana. She settled near Bozeman, is that how you say it? And she was a ranch hand, and she took other jobs as a little side hustle when needed. According to people in her life, she really preferred the quieter style of living that they had in Montana. And at first, nothing seemed strange. She was keeping in contact with her family back in Pittsburgh. She was working hard, making a life for herself. That's until 9 years later in 1989 when people around Patricia started to notice a change. It's important to be careful here because this part of Patricia's case has been exaggerated online so many times. There is no confirmed diagnosis of Patricia's behavior before she disappeared. However, there were several documented observations made by friends and family on her behavior before she vanished. Her landlord told investigators that she seemed unusually energetic and restless, describing her as hyper. The day before Patricia disappeared, she called her dad back in Pennsylvania. During that conversation, she allegedly claimed that she was under a lot of stress and that she really wanted to come home. This wasn't anything super unusual, people go through stressful times, but her father was concerned by this phone call. And what's particularly interesting is that Patricia had actually booked an appointment with a psychologist the next day. There's no confirmation on what this appointment was actually going to be about, but it was clear that Patricia was going through something. Because Patricia never made it to that appointment. In fact, that phone call with her father was the last time she ever spoke to family. April 20th, 1989, Patricia climbs into her station wagon and begins driving. Instead of staying in Bozeman, she drove 400 kilometers across Montana. Her destination, where she was planning on going, was never discovered. Investigators couldn't find out any friends or family who lived in that area. So, why? No one could ever figure it out. Investigators believe that discovering where she was going or why she was going there would be the key to solving this case. But we don't know it. By the evening of April 20th, she is driving down the Montana Highway 200 near the small community of Circle. Very little traffic. It's very calm roads. You go for miles and it's just fields and fields and fields. Okay, keep that in mind. 8:15 p.m., other people driving on the highway start to notice something pretty alarming. There was a station wagon heading towards them in the wrong lane. One of these witnesses was called Peggy, and Peggy realized that this car was coming straight on and it was not moving back into its lane. She had about a second to react, so she ended up swerving and completely avoiding collision. But the driver behind her, called Carol, was not so fortunate. With almost no time to react, she crashed head-on with Patricia's vehicle. This collision was bad. It left both vehicles severely damaged, but luckily both women were still alive. What happens next left everyone baffled. Patricia gets out of her car. She's just been in a pretty serious collision. Instead of checking on the other driver, or trying to explain what happened, or even trying to ask for help, she stood there in silence. Carol, who had just been crashed into, described Patricia as having a blank stare, like she wasn't fully aware of what was going on. Maybe she was in shock or experiencing a mental or psychological crisis. No one knew, and no one had time to even find out. Patricia started walking away. She climbed over a barbed wire fence and started walking through a field. She walked for a while, then she stopped. According to witnesses, she turned around and stared at the crash scene for a while, just stared. They described this as looking very unsettling, which I can imagine. This sounds like something out of a horror film. No one was really panicking because Patricia wasn't like running away from the scene. She just like quietly walked off. Some people thought that she just needed a little bit of space. She needed to process what just happened. They knew she was nearby and emergency services were already called. And understandably, people were focused on the injured driver. But as they were focusing on this, she just kept walking very slowly, very quietly, and she got further and further away. And as time went by, it was clear that Patricia was not coming back to the scene. When law enforcement arrived, they weren't treating this as like a hit and run. They thought this was more of like a missing persons, like where did she go? Everyone was saying like, look, she looks like she was in a lot of shock. She just kind of walked that way. The landscape was like an open prairie, rolling fields, not a lot of like places to hide, you know? In fact, this would be like the ideal place to spot someone. You know, you're not gonna play hide and seek in there because you'll be able to see them pretty quick. But Patricia was really good at that game because they never found her. Eventually, they had search teams out, they had tracking dogs. These dogs were able to follow her scent for a distance, but then it just stopped. There was no evidence that she ever returned. She just seemingly wandered off into this forever field. They were not treating her like a criminal. Most people were just a bit concerned. She simply vanished into the Montana countryside. They then thought maybe she was injured in the accident and she'll be found in one of these fields, but I tell you, nothing of hers was ever found anywhere. No clothing, no belongings, no blood, nothing. The more time passed, the more people were like, what is happening here? Where is she? Nothing made sense. As you can imagine, this eventually turned into a full-blown missing persons case. They were talking to friends, neighbors, landlords apparently, and there was one thing that they all had in common. They all noticed that Patricia had been acting different recently. Maybe something was troubling her, maybe someone was troubling her. But again, it's important to stick to the documented facts. There was no confirmed diagnosis. She had been completely fine just a year before. Once her picture was released to the public, tips started flooding in. At first, they were all from Montana, then from neighboring states. Eventually, reports were coming from all over the United States. Investigators over the years have received over 5,000 reported sightings of Patricia. Some claimed she was walking along highways, some claimed she was transient. Several claimed that she came off as very confused and avoided conversation, and when they tried to interact with her, she would simply walk away. Investigators did take a lot of the leads seriously, but none of them ever led to Patricia. And eventually, over years and years and years, the trail just grew cold. So I ask again, what happened? You know, was she under a threat? Did she have to disappear? Did she enter some sort of psychosis or mental break? She was the only one in that car. No one forced her to go on the other side of the road. So what was going on? It's almost like this case refuses to be solved because there's nothing to go off of. There have been countless times where unidentified remains have been compared with Patricia's DNA, but nothing ever came up. She's possibly out there somewhere right now. Even still, police get leads about her and they investigate every single one that seems legit. There are a few theories that people believe. Theory 1, it was a mental health crisis. This is a theory a lot of people believe because of everything her friends, family, and landlord were saying before she passed away, you know. Everyone saw a change in her. Was this caused by an event, a person, something traumatic, or did it just happen? Theory 2 is that she died shortly after leaving the scene. This crash was still pretty serious. Maybe she had some sort of internal injury. She may have continued walking and died at some point. But then again, why didn't the search team find her? Why didn't the dogs find her? Why didn't anyone find her? She could have died from exposure, dehydration, or like I said, this undiagnosed injury. The final theory is foul play. Maybe Patricia was walking away from the scene and somebody picked her up. The wrong person picked her up. Considering she was maybe in a state of shock or not quite herself, maybe this person took advantage of that. Did she become the victim of a crime? Did she get taken? But I will say no witnesses ever claimed to see Patricia in a vehicle. It was always on like the side of the road or outside. And we have no forensic evidence pointing to foul play. So what do you think? Which of the 3 theories do you believe is the right one? Or do you have a 4th one that you believe? It's hard covering these cases when there's literally nothing to go off of, but it's just the way that this all went down is so bizarre. I feel so terrible for Patricia's family because they just never got any answers. With the way I'm feeling about this case, and I don't even know her, I cannot even begin to imagine if this was someone related to me or a friend of mine. It's so confusing and there's just absolutely no closure. And when you're getting 5,000 leads, you're thinking, she's out there somewhere, but why won't she come home? I don't even know what to say. It's baffling. That's everything on this case. I would love to hear what you think about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what case you want me to cover next, and I'll see you there. Bye!